When you have a problem in the shop, you have to come up with a solution. And you have the tools available to you, you design the various parts, you assemble them, and you solve this problem. Welcome to Pawpaw's Workshop, and in today's video, I'm going to be making a computer stand to be able to solve a problem that I've had for quite some time. And this is the solution, the computer stand next to the CNC machines. For the past several years, this is the setup that I have had using my laptop. It's just literally sitting on top of a drawer. The problem that I've had is that every time that I need to get into the drawer, I've got to literally move the computer out of the way and then be able to access the drawer to be able to get a tape measure or whatever it happens to be. And that is very, very inconvenient. Even on top of that, if I want to open up the second drawer, I have to be very, very careful to make sure the cords are out of the way so that it doesn't get caught. Now, in addition, one other problem that I've had is the mouse. There's no mouse pad, and there's no real space to be able to put one. And I've always had to use the mouse on top of the computer to be able to get everything to work. Now, like so many of my projects, I like to be able to use materials from my scrap bin. I've really been working hard to be able to get that reduced down to as small as possible. So let's go right outside and check the scrap bin and see what I can find. Now, I found these two pieces of wood here. I think they're going to work. Even though these were a leftover from another project that I had done, I'm not going to worry about the grooves that are cut into here. Now, to cut the main part of the laptop stand, which is the arm and the swivel, I need to use the 3/4 inch plywood. And for that, I've laid it out in easel to be able to have a 12 by 14 piece of plywood to be able to cut out all the parts. I'm going to look through for that. Found a piece here. This one's 12 3/4 by almost 18. So this piece will work just fine. Now I'm going to use the glue and tape method to be able to secure this. And for this, I'm using a Starbond medium CA glue. And this works extremely well to be able to hold a project like this down, to be able to cut out all the different parts. And this way I don't need to use the tabs, and that's just one less thing that I have to be able to clean up. And I have tape on the wasteboard itself. I also have tape on the project board. It doesn't take a lot of glue. And I'm going to use the Starbond activator to be able to spray, and this will make it where the glue will dry almost instantly. I'll press down on that, hold it for just a minute, and it will be secured and ready to go. Now, I do have a link in the description below so that you can purchase the Starbond glue, because to me, this has been a lifesaver and something I've used in the shop now for a number of years and really find it beneficial. This is a look at all the components that I'm going to be cutting out. And here's the preview screen that shows you exactly what it's going to look like. I've turned on the machine and I want to go to the machine setting and select home. This project that I designed in easel is just utilizing the various shapes, and it is a very, very basic design. If you would like to be able to see a detailed video on how I designed this stand, please leave me a comment down in the description and I'll take and show you exactly how to design it. The knobs that I used for this project I designed in Tinkercad, which is a free software. Now, this is one of the real advantages of using the glue and tape method. All the parts come out, you don't have to worry about the tabs, and they're literally relatively clean. You may have to do just a little bit of touch-up sanding, but other than that, these parts are ready to use. I want to show you one mistake that I made. Now this part worked perfectly, but when I slip this in, there is a problem. This was actually cut with the dog bones, and you can see that it's cut too wide, and that's not going to work. And I forgot that when you use the dog bones, it changes the tool path and it puts the tool path where it's on the tool path. I need to have this where it cuts on the outside of the tool path to be able to give the proper thickness. So these will have to be recut, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. When you use the Dogbone app in Easel, it will change the toolpath and change it from whatever you have to putting it on the toolpath. And you can see that blue line right there. So just use the drop-down menu, go to the cut path, and make your selection. And because of that, the slots are too big and it's not going to fit. So I need to be able to readjust the toolpath, and I'm going to put this on a different workpiece, make the change, and then just cut out these 3 parts. So after making the adjustment, setting the toolpath where it cuts on the outside, then you can see the difference. This now will fit, and it's a nice tight fit. That's what you're looking for. So you can see if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. You can just make the change and set up the different workpiece and carve just what you need to be able to have that replacement part. And then it just snaps in exactly the way you want it. Now I want to see how these fit in there. And that fits in perfect. It's a little bit snug, but that's okay. That is just right. And then this will slip in between. And that will work just perfect. I like it. When I'm gluing up the different components, I'll use another piece of the plywood to be able to use as a spacer. Because after all, these parts have to mesh together. And before the glue sets up, make sure it's square, because this will make all the difference in the world. With this now all glued, I'll set it aside and let the glue dry. For the next bracket, I'm going to glue these together, but I'm also putting in the screw just to be able to reinforce it, because there's a lot of pressure that's going to be on this bracket. I want to put the pilot holes in here because I don't want to take a chance on splitting the plywood when I put the screws in. These little slots that are in here that I'm putting the glue in actually is like a registration point. And it makes it where the spacing of these blocks are perfect, so that when you put in the different plywood components, they mesh perfectly, and that's what I'm looking for. Now that the glue's dried, I want to mash these together, and you can see for yourself they fit perfectly. I printed another set of these because what I plan on doing, in addition to just using this for the computer stand, I'm going to use this for a camera mount also, and a monitor that I have in the shop. I 3D printed these knobs, and this is the 5/16 inch nut that will go inside of there, and you can see that fits perfectly. So I'll be able to epoxy that into the knob, and likewise this will fit right in there, and I think that is going to work real well. On these where the nut goes in, there's plenty of room to be able to screw this in, because I designed it where there's a hole there, so it'll be able to go down inside of there to be able to tighten properly. As I said earlier, I use the Tinkercad software, which is a free software, to design these knobs for this project. The knobs are designed a little bit different. This has a flat bottom to receive the bolt, and this one has a hole in it where you can put in the nut. It's time to mount the bracket now on the leg of the CNC table. You can mount this really at any height that you wish. I chose to come down about 8 inches from the top of the CNC machine to be able to mount this bracket. And I want to make sure that this bracket is good and square, and quite frankly level. So I'm using the speed square just to mark that point right at the 8 inches. And then I know that this bracket is 2 inches wide, and I know my post is 4 inches. So I can just use the speed square and mark out exact dimensions of this bracket. I know this may be a little bit difficult to see in the camera, but that bracket now has the pencil lines around it, and I know exactly where it's going to be mounted. I'm using a clamp to be able to hold it in position, and that keeps my hands free. I have that little small hole there identified so I can drill the pilot holes and be able to have that exactly where I want it, and that made it so much easier. I didn't have to do any additional measuring at all. It was just simply a matter of using that provided hole that I'd made to be able to drill the pilot hole. And from there, I can put the screw in and be able to have this secured, and it will hold. I repeated the same exact process for the bottom one, and that bracket now is mounted. I'm ready to continue on with the installation of this computer stand. The next bracket now is ready to be mounted, and it just slips right in place, and I can just drop the bolt in. Next, I'm adding the arms. I'm using two for this portion of it on the lower portion of my computer stand. Now these knobs that I made, I epoxied the bolt into the one, and I epoxied the nut into my other adjoining knob. These knobs are working out far better than I had ever dreamed of, and I'm sure I'll be using this design for future projects. I'm already thinking about a lot of different projects that I can do in the future where these knobs will be a perfect addition to the different projects. For the next arm, this is just a single arm. I'm using the same knobs that I did before, and that locks it right in place. Perfect. I want the mouse pad to be able to slide in and out of my little tabletop. And in order for this to work, I need to have a spacer. And that little thin Formica strip is going to provide the space that I need to allow for my mouse pad to slip in and out easily from this tabletop. And I'm just using the Starbond CA glue to be able to glue this on. Now that little small notch that you see on the mouse pad itself, that is going to be the stop. So it will slide out 8 inches and it will stop, because the little piece of wood that I put in there is the exact thickness that I need to be able to have it where that creates my stop. So you can see how this works in operation, and this is a very, very simple means to be able to have the mouse pad come out by 8 inches and hit the stop. I need to add this thinner piece of the guide rail now on each side, and this allows the mouse pad to be able to slide in and out very easily. And you can see that groove that's created, so this mouse pad will be able to slide right down and hit the stop. It's now time to put the bottom on, and rather than glue it into position, I'm going to use screws. I think that's the best way to be able to hold this in place rather than using the glue. To lay this out, I'm just using a stick to align this. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, and I don't need a tape measure. All I need to do is just use this straight edge to mark exactly where I want to be able to put the screws in. With the locations marked with the pencil line, I can just take the awl and just use a punch to be able to create the hole. This makes putting the screws in much, much easier. This is about as simple of a computer stand that I think is possible to be able to have the mouse pad feature that I want and to be able to have just a very simple design. The only thing I need to be able to have now is just a little pencil holder down at the bottom to be able to keep anything from sliding off. And this laptop stand is adjustable. If you want to sit down and have this at the normal desk height, you can do that also. And when I'm ready to use the mouse pad, just pull this out and I can use the mouse just fine right there. And I didn't have that before. It's easy to swing out of the way and bring it right back. So this is going to be a nice addition to the shop. You just spin this out of the way, get to the other machine, spin it around this way, and I'm at the X-carve. I like the ability to be able to stand and work with the computer, or to be able to sit down. This is going to be a great addition to my area with my CNC machines. So if you like this video, by all means, give me a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody for watching this video today, and I look forward to seeing you real soon. So for now, bye-bye.